This one is, it incorporates some shellfish, but you can just as easily use some different shellfish, or you can use chicken. It would work for any of those things, but the idea is that I want to kind of take a bunch of different flavors and textures and things that you might not have think of put together and really come up with a dish that, that I've done before, and I think it's got a lot of flavor to it. So we're going to start with a high-sided pan here, and the reason I want to do it this way and get our blended oil nice and hot is because I want to find a pan that I can have a lid fit with. Now, if I use a saute pan with the sloping sides, I'm not going to be able to do that. But here now, I'm able to get this pan sealed because I have a couple of types of fish that I want to use. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a broth for this, and we're going to start the Fregola, and I'll tell you all about that. But I want to start with clams and scallops. So the best way to get the clams to open up is we're going to get the oil nice and hot, and then we're going to put our lid on. And there's two reasons for that. The first reason is that when this oil gets really hot, it's very easy for it to catch on fire. And by putting a lid on it, we keep some of the air and oxygen away from the oil so we don't get a flare-up and a flash-up, which is not only not good, it's dangerous, but also the other problem is that if we've got other ingredients in there, they'll burn, like garlic, for example. So we'll start with some clams here. They're sealed tight, kind of click them together, and they feel solid. We know we've got some fresh clams. All these babies are good. Okay, so the oil's hot. We'll throw our clams in, and we're going to cover them. I've got here some really nice diver scallops, and I think the more important thing to look for when you buy a scallop is whether or not they're dry. And what I mean by that is they're not pumped with chemicals. So if you ask for a diver scallop today, diver scallop usually means, well, it pertains to the size of the scallop. It usually means that there's 10 or lesser pound or 12 or lesser pound. And then here I've got Fregola. Now Fregola is, I guess, a fancy way of saying toasted Sardinian couscous. Now what I mean by that is couscous here is pasta. It's just little round nuggets of pasta. I'm going to add just a little bit more. Our first clam's open. I'm going to add our scallops. We're going to start to sear our scallops now. And the way I know it's time to turn those scallops over is when they're no longer stuck to the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to let those scallops go for a few minutes. Here I've got a little bit of fish stock. If you're cooking along at home, water would work. I guess our secret ingredient, we're going to use a little marsala wine. Now remember what I said, couscous, very Sicilian in style. Marsala wine originated in Sicily, so the flavors here go really well. My clams, 3 of the 4 have opened up. I'm turning our scallops here. And again, I've got a pretty dry pan. I think that's what you want to do. But see, the scallops did not stick. They're browned on one side. The clams are starting to open up. 3 of the 4 are open. I guess the key again is you don't want to go down there. You don't want to scrape these scallops up. You don't want to tear them apart. They're going to let you know when it's time to turn. There we go. So now I'm going to come off the flame. A little bit of marsala wine. As you can see, we got the makings of a really good broth started there. Okay, I'm going to add some of our shallots. And the shallots, if you wanted to, this way it's just going to they're going to steam as well. The alcohol's burnt out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our Fregola. And again, this is pasta. It's couscous. We're going to add now a little bit of our fish stock, fish broth, a little bit of water, whatever you have at home if you're playing along. Okay? You could add to this, besides these diced tomatoes, you could add, if you wanted, some basil. That would work. But I don't think you need it. I think there's enough nice flavors going on. The only thing I want to do is I want to add just a little bit of butter, because butter's going to do a bunch of different things. We've talked about this before. You guys, if you've watched the show, you know where I'm going with this. Butter not only adds some flavor and texture, the other thing about the butter is dairy's going to help us reduce down a really nice sauce here. We have no salt introduced in here so far. So we didn't add cheese. There's no place to really draw salt from, so we're going to need a little bit of salt. I think we'll also add a little bit of pepper. Now here's the thing. If the clams, when you take the lid off, did not open, chances are they're bad. Now you tested them before we started, right? We had the clams that were solid. They were closed real tight. You know, pick one up, if they're slightly open, they'll close when you pick them up. Tap them together, they feel pretty solid. The problem was, though, that you can do that and still get a clam that might not be good to eat. So if you pull the lid off here now, you've let these cook for quite some time, and you've not had those clams open up on you, don't force them open, throw them away. They're cheap enough. Throw them away, grab a couple other clams and start all over again, or at least eat the ones that opened up, because it's not worth taking the risk. All right, so I'm going to pull out some of the shallots. the couscous, and I'm using a slotted spoon, and the reason I'm doing this is I want to allow that sauce to continue to cook. It's going to continue to reduce, and I don't want this really soupy, because what I want to do is I want to put a little broth in here, but I want to control how much. I don't want this swimming. I want the flavor here. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so see what we got here? We got this pan sauce, kind of reduced down nice. The butter's reduced down. I'm going to pour this right over the top. And there's a simple dish. You've got that couscous sitting on the shelf in your fridge. You get some fresh clams or mussels or scallops or shrimp would work for all of them. But I think right here, the brininess of the clams, the shallots in there, and you can see here's a shallot. See how the shallot comes out? It's tender. Melt in your mouth. Just a little bit of bite to it still. The nice thing is, though, we didn't burn anything. We cooked a real simple dish, all in one pan. Hey, I'm on a roll. One pan pickups again. Here we go.